Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the Kingman City Council on Tuesday, November 2nd, 2021 at 5 p.m. Could we have a roll call, please?
Mayor Miles,
Present.
Vice Mayor Watkins,
Here.
Councilmember Mello,
Here.
Councilmember Nelson, Councilmember Samily,
Here.
Councilmember Scott Staley,
Did you catch that?
oh, I did, thank you. Councilmember
Okay.
Walker,
Here.
we have a quorum.
Mayor, just let the record show that Councilmember Nelson was on her way back from Phoenix and will try to join Zoom when she can, but probably prefer that she keeps two eyes on the road kind of thing, so.
Good point. Thank you, Manager Foggin. This evening, the invocation will be given by Pastor Peter Ernst of the Family Bible Church, and he's not on Zoom. Okay, then I would just ask for everyone to stand for a moment of silence, and that will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Join me in reflection on our wonderful city and the people in it. Thank you. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our first order of business this evening will be a proclamation recognizing National American Indian Heritage Month, and we're very happy to have the Lewis Kingman chapter of the Daughters of American Revolution here to support and receive this proclamation. And the proclamation reads, whereas the history and culture of our great nation have been significantly influenced by American Indians and indigenous peoples, and whereas the contributions of American Indians have enhanced the freedom, prosperity, and greatness of America today, and whereas their customs and traditions are respected and celebrated as part of a rich legacy throughout the United States, and whereas Native American Awareness Week began in 1976 and recognition was expanded by Congress and approved by President George Bush in August 1990, designating the month of November as National American Indian Heritage Month, and whereas in honor of National American Indian Heritage Month, community celebrations as well as numerous cultural, artistic, educational, and historical activities have been planned, and now therefore I, Jen Miles, Mayor of the City of Kingman, do hereby proclaim November 2021 as the National American Indian Heritage Month and urge the residents of our community and communities across the country to observe this month with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities. In witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused me affix the seal of the City of Kingman. And we have here Carol Pearson and Kim Casey from the DAR, and I'd like for anyone to council to come and join us as we present this proclamation.
Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Next order of business is call to the public. Comments from the public. For those who wish to address the council, you should fill out request forms in advance. Action taken as a result of public comments will be limited to directing staff to study the matter or rescheduling the matter for consideration and decision at a later time. Comments from the public will be restricted to items not on the agenda with the exception of those on the consent agenda. There will be no comments allowed that advertise for a particular person or group. And comments should be limited to no more than 3 minutes. We have 3 ways that people can give public comment. They can register to call in or submit comments by email to the city clerk or be here in person and register. Clerk Annie, have we got any comments from, or have we had anyone register to telephone in or email comments?
Madam Mayor, we did not have anybody register to join us via Zoom tonight, and no written comments were received ahead of time. We just have the members of the audience that have signed up.
We do have a number of people signed up to speak tonight, and the first one will be Edwin K. Parks. Please come forward and address the council.
Hi, I'm Ted Parks. I live in Kingman. I own this property over there on Kenwood and Eastern. There's a rumor going around last week that the city was going to take a default judgment against us on this eminent domain case, and turned out it was a hoax. But anyway, I came down here to try to find out what's going on. So I own that property, and we're trying to sell it. I think we have a buyer right now, so I think this whole thing might be a waste of time and money. But anyway, that's pretty much what I have to say. So I don't know if anybody has any questions or anything.
We can't really go back and forth during public comment, but thank you so much, Mr. Parks,
Okay.
for letting us know that.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. The next person signed up to speak is Jean Mund.
My name is Gene Mund. I live at 3264 Amanda Avenue, and I'm addressing the council about drainage problems, dirt on the streets, and inadequate work from the contractor. On these streets, I have a picture of them, but there are Sherry, Brandon, Amanda, Karen, and on these streets, there's dirt. You can't even walk on the sidewalks, and the washes are washing out because there's no gravel or anything put on them. And I did call. I don't, you're not supposed to name names, but I called Engel, and they said it's the city's problem. Because the reason why it's the city's problem, because they're losing money on giving you the washes. That's what they claim. And it's hard to believe, but up there, it's a disaster up there. What's going on up there. You can't even walk on the sidewalks. There's so much dirt and debris on them. And the washes are washing out. They said they don't want to put the gravel on it because they're losing money. Well, they're making money on selling homes, but they said the city signed off on it. And that's hard to believe because I was in construction for 38 years and I was a superintendent for 20 years. And there's no way that that kind of workmanship would go on anywhere. And it's really getting worse up there than better. And then my next one is at the corner of Walapai and Central there. The cars are speeding so fast on that road, doing 60 miles an hour plus, going both ways. And at nighttime, there's no street light there. You come to a stop, and the people behind you are ready to rear end you. And that's really a safety problem. And on that same street on Central, down between Karen, the sidewalk is broken. Actually, the sidewalk is broken away. There's concrete missing there, and that's a safety concern for me. I walk every morning at 5 o'clock, and they're bad. And it's just and I drew out a little map of what's going on there, and I'll give it to you. But Angle Home is not living up to their bargain of what they're supposed to be doing up there, and it's getting worse by the day. They're creating more dirt. It's unbelievable. You can't even walk on Central because they're got dirt on the street there. It's just unbelievable. And I don't know what the answer is, but they're blaming you guys because, well, we signed it off, but that's not the truth because I know you didn't sign that off. But this is really a problem up there, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Munn.
Can I give this to somebody?
Manager Foggin, could we refer this to you? Thank you. Appreciate those comments. Next person to speak would be Carol Scott and Vicky Mund.
Hi, this is my first time here. My name is Carol Scott. I'm now a resident in Kingman, Arizona. I retired. You want to say your name? Oh, okay. And I live right next door to the wash. My address is 3267 Amanda Avenue. And I took pictures with the unfinished sidewalk here, that a bunch of dirt. And should I go closer so you could see?
You have
Or
3 minutes.
pass the phone?
I would show
Okay.
it to the manager.
And
I can see
oh, you see it?
dirt.
Oh, okay. And people throw trash there. I've been picking it up as I take my walk around next door. And right here, the weeds are piling up. And I also, right here is a longer version of the gate, and the weeds are growing and trash. So I have to go and pick that up, and a big pile of dirt right here that wasn't scraped off or it's just like dumped there, right next to the landscape of my home and the front yard. I mean, you know, it's not a good thing to look at. And okay, I have to quit talking.
Hi, my name is Vicky Mund. I live across the street at 3264 Amanda Avenue. I have 2 complaints. One, I did go into Engel Holmes' office, and I was told in the most rudest way that your inspector had signed it off, and I need to come to this meeting and tell you guys to clean it up. So what I'm going to ask is, can we find out who really needs to clean it up so I know where to go? My second one is the street light at the water tower. The road goes into 1 lane. When I traveled at night, I had to shoot off the road because a car was coming up behind me. We need a street light there desperately. I don't want to see an accident, and I don't want to be in an accident. Thank you.
Thank you. And I see that Manager Foggin is giving information to how to contact him. So thank you very much, everyone. We will look, I'm sure the city will look into that. Last person to speak will be Beth Ferry.
Hi, I'm Beth Ferry. I'm actually here later to do a report, but I figured since I'm here, I might as well kind of speak too, you know, see how everybody's doing and whatnot. Last year, you allocated, I think, around $75,000 for pickleball courts, and those courts were built, and I know that many times, for the most part, people come here and they have major concerns and such, but I'm coming here to say a great big thanks to you. We are utilizing those to the greatest. We just finished doing our 2nd tournament that we hosted. We had people from Havasu, Mohave Valley, Laughlin, Prescott, and Kingman, so it was quite a big deal. Ryan and the folks at Parks and Rec have been just really wonderful. This week, we're sponsoring 4 clinics for beginners and youth and intermediate advanced for free, and to widen this sport. It is the fastest growing sport. Everybody's invited, and all ages are encouraged. So we are very, very thankful. We're looking forward to lights so that we can play 24/7. Thank you so much. I know that there's a million things on your plate, but you need to know that when you dedicate things like that, there is many, many people are very, very grateful. Thanks.
Thank you. Next order of business, consent agenda. All matters listed here are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Are there any items on the consent agenda that any council member would like to remove? Hearing none, I would ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda, items A through F.
So moved.
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Ayes have it. Motion carries unanimously. Well, this is an evening that seems to be designed for the World Series. We have no old business, and we have no new business. Did you arrange that, Manager Foggin? Sports fan, maybe?
I would like to say yes, but we just had a light agenda.
Okay, we'll take it. But we do have some department reports, and the first one is a update from our Main Street group on the Jim Hinckley statue.
What would be the best place to display this? I'm gonna put this next to you. Like up here, maybe?
That'd be fine. Is there I don't know if there's any way to show that on the video from there. Yeah, I think it would be nice to at least have a shot of
Put
it.
it down there.
An engineering feat right here. I could, yes.
Need to be at the, she and I are both pretty loud. I don't know if it's gonna make a difference. I gotcha. My name is Paul Gaines, and this is Beth Ferry, and we are from Kingman Main Street. And we're here this evening just to give you a brief update, we think will be very brief, on our latest project, which is Kingman Tours, a walkabout with Jim Hinckley. So I'll be throwing it off to Beth now because she does such a fantastic job, because she was a former school teacher, and she knows how to just keep everybody's attention. And I'll interject occasionally as if and when needed.
So last time I was here, we introduced the project, and we thought it's time for you to kind of see where we've come with that. So since that time, the city has graciously shared with us a piece of property at the train depot. We had first originally talked about the platform and found out that that indeed is owned by the railroad, so that was a no-go. But it actually turned out to be a much better place to the side of that platform. So what we have here is a rendering of what we hope to have the statue area look like. So this is on the left-hand side. Currently, sorry, can you stop? What is here now is this retainer wall, that's it. So we are anticipating that we'll continue this wrought iron behind it. The ground will be leveled. Right now there's a slope to it, so the ground will be leveled, and this wall will be here with concrete brick benches, and then the statue will be in the front. So this is what we anticipate, and these are the bricks that we would put down that people are currently purchasing. So this is what we anticipate this project will look like in front of the depot.
And this is the starting point of the tours right here. This will be considered the starting spot.
So, and then right here would be a point of interest here where the actual tours could start. Now, people can jump in at any point. We will begin this project. We have 4 tours now with approximately 10 points of interest for each tour. So, we told you that this was going to be a auditory tour, basically, and you would use your phone to swipe over the QR code, and then you would get a little narrative about the point of interest. So this is, while we're using it as a sample, it is the real-life point of interest, and so we invite you to take your phone out, go across the QR code so you can see exactly what would happen if you were really on that tour. So that is that.
And then one of the cool things about it is it opens up a narrative with Jim Hinckley, a pre-recorded, and this Little Red Schoolhouse is about 3 or 4 minutes, him talking about the history of the schoolhouse and how it happened and what it is now and things like that. It's really slick. And every point of interest will have one of these either on the building or on a post, like this one will be, to explain the point of interest and of the history of it, and all done by Jim Hinckley, but 4 separate tours, I guess, right?
Right. One of them is the Picture Yourself Selfie Tour, which is highlighting the murals in the downtown area. So we've selected about 10 or 11 murals that we notice people typically stand in front of to take pictures. And there will be introductions about those murals and the artists. And then one is Route 66, of course. And so then there's points of interest along Route 60. I usually have such a loud voice, Route 66, so that's another tour. Then we have Historic Downtown, which really highlights some of our historic buildings. And then the last one is,
So historic buildings, Route 66, Picture Yourself, and...
Celebrity Tour.
Yeah.
So 8 to 10 spots where we've had famous people come and visit, and Jim's got some very nice stories to tell about that. So I think you're going to find when you run your phone against this that this really makes this tour project a notch above many other downtown tours, because oftentimes you receive a pamphlet, you get to go along by yourself, which is great, but you mostly read it along. This is super great. It's got pictures there. You can swipe on this one. It shows you the historic picture, and then it shows you the picture that is the current one, and then it's got that wonderful story that Jim narrates. So that's that. Right now, Jim went down for a second showing of the statue with our artist, J.Ann Butler, down in Cave Creek. That's going along really smoothly. They figure it'll go to the Foundry right after Christmas, so we're super excited about that, and it's looking very wonderful. And we feel like right now we're going to be on target for that opening May 2022 for the National Road Trip Inauguration Calendar event. Right? That's a net. So anyway, that's it. We're busy, working with civic organizations, meeting with them, really soliciting help financially. We've got a grant submitted with Local Arizona First, so we're excited to hear about that. So that's where we're at.
And there are several ways to donate. You can simply, as a brick for $125, get whatever you want engraved. You can see the brick pavers down there, and that's what that's going to be. I don't know how many we've sold of these, but we've sold maybe close to a third of the points of interest, which is the next higher level, and there's $1,000 and $5,000. We have a couple of commitments for $5,000 already in town, and right now we're about 35% there, close to 40, and we're going to be doing some fundraising also this weekend at the Route 66 Festival, so we'll have a booth, 2 booths there actually. Right. 2 different things going on. So we have other targeted people and businesses that we'll be going to, but with the rate that we're going now, we feel very confident we'll have the funding needed. But we strongly encourage any council members, anybody else with their businesses, if they want to buy a brick for a great Christmas gift, right? For the uncle, you have no idea what he wants anymore. He needs a brick on this project is what he needs.
We are really encouraging that.
But a lot of people have bought these. It's amazing how, these are selling very, very well. So, as well as the points of interest.
Here, we'll put this here, because I think you guys definitely need to take your phone over here and see. Here you go. And put it against the QR code and see how that goes. Is there any questions or anything like that, you guys?
Yes, how many bricks can you hold in that area?
Oh, well, we are so glad you asked, because only Paul would count all of them.
No, I actually had my
figured you
assistant help me out with that. I gave her an assignment, and she wasn't happy about it. But I said, please look at this image and count the bricks. But I had her. It took her a while to do it, but she only did half at a time. But there's about 3,400 bricks there. So ultimately, we'll be selling more of these to finance other things like Kingman Main Street or keep the technology going with the project and additional tours. But that could net, like 30 or $320,000, $340,000 eventually, which is way above the price of this project. So that's what could come into it eventually.
Oh, and something about the bricks that I think that we're pretty excited about. So a few years ago, the city sponsored, or somebody sponsored, I think the city, the Walk of Fame, and people bought bricks during that time. So there are some bricks in front of El Palacio and whatnot, but some of the bricks had been removed. So what we're doing is Josh has given us his pallet of bricks, and we're taking those and we're looking at, there were 79 people who actually bought bricks during that project. So even though they may have a brick somewhere in the front, we're doing their names again, and their bricks will also be placed in here. So that it kind of consolidates all that whole brick project, and nobody feels like, oh, my brick was moved, I don't know where it's at anymore. So that is also gonna be a part
Yeah,
of that.
give them a proper home where it won't be disturbed again, where it will
That's
actually
really
live.
nice. I've had
Yeah.
organizations say, I don't know where my brick is anymore. So
Yeah, exactly.
now we'll be able to tell them.
That's what we thought. So Josh is working with us on that one, and we're pretty excited to combine that and have our bricks all in one home.
That's beautiful.
There we go.
Are those tours available now for people or not? Because these points of interest are not up.
No.
Correct, they're not.
Okay.
It's not.
This is just a sample tonight.
You can get a personal tour with Jim Hinckley, though. He'll be more than happy to. I've
Believe
done
me,
that twice.
I've had a number of walks with Jim Hinckley.
It's impossible to talk to him at all, as you know, and not get a piece of history thrown at
It
you
is
in
so
some form
true.
or fashion.
So
And
true.
a special thank you to the Chamber and MCC, because they are allowing us to keep this little display in their building in between our little visits that we have with our civic organization. So when they have tours, this is always on display there, and people coming in and out. So we're super excited about having that facility downtown and access to that. So
I know when you first approached us, and we discussed, of course, the statue and the pad, but this is a really nice infrastructure design around it. So is that included in your, the bench, the
well, we
fence, the seating?
Microphone, microphone,
Oh, Beth,
microphone.
here you go.
Microphone.
This, we anticipate the project is going to be about $66,000 is what we anticipate.
Coincidentally, that was not
Ah,
on purpose.
Yeah,
That
I-
was-
On
I was-
66,
yes,
of
so that was
course.
it, right, 66. So anyway, and I know I talked with Gary and shared with him this rendering. So he is working, he'll come back to us and say what the city can help us with this infrastructure right here. And then we'll plan the rest with our fundraising. But this is, we feel pretty confident that this would be a good end result of that space, you know.
Tourism was really excited when they learned finally what was going to happen, and because they're always getting people coming through there that said, what can we do in an hour or two? And then they said, oh my gosh, we can now tell them to go do this walking tour, and they were just ecstatic. Finally it clicked, and they went, oh God, we can tell them where to go and how to do, get hooked up with the tour.
Nice piece of our history.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So I think it'll be a beautiful addition to that train depot.
Are there any other questions?
Mayor, I would just
Go ahead.
put a plug in for the Route 66 Fest this weekend, and I believe Main Street, in a partnership, really came through and is part of their fundraising effort. They are actually partnering on this project. A really big piece of it is the, I don't know what to call it, the beer garden, but it's the alcohol serving piece
Yes.
of it, and it was really wonderful. We'd had some early conversations with people; those fell through, and in an effort to help the Main Street folks raise money, great partnership. So thank you for that.
And we're very appreciative as well. That's a great opportunity to make some money this coming Friday and Saturday down there. So.
Yeah, let's make sure that you plug that really well right now.
Well-
It's Friday and Saturday?
Yes.
Friday
What
and Saturday,
time?
we're going to have our informational booth, and we'll be at the beer garden
From
serving.
2 to 10, is that right on Friday? Is that
Yes,
correct?
2 to 10.
And then 10 to 10 on Saturday, I think, yeah.
Okay.
And where at? Where's the
At the
festival?
Lewis
at?
Kingman Park, isn't that
Lewis Kingman
correct?
Park,
Yes.
Yes.
At Lewis
Yes.
Kingman
Which is right on
Park.
66, the kind of long, skinny park along the,
Yeah.
isn't the dog park there also, isn't it?
There is a dog park, I've heard.
Okay.
I've heard that. There's
Heard
a
there's a dog
rumor
park.
that there's one there.
Um,
And
but
part
it's a
of,
beautiful tree-lined
Yeah.
Perfect,
park.
it's perfect.
It's
We're
gorgeous
super
there.
excited.
and part of 66 will be closed. The festival will actually, it is a Route 66 festival that will spill out onto Route 66. So we're really excited about it.
But it is, and it's totally pedestrian-friendly.
Yep.
Pedestrian-friendly, and I would note that there is a big parking lot, but it's city-owned land. It's just a dirt lot, but holds what, 600 cars?
I don't know the total, but it's a lot.
You didn't count the cars the last?
It's 5 acres, so.
Paul, we need your
I will,
counter
we'll
person.
count the spaces.
No,
Yeah.
please, seriously, this is a big event for our city, and
We're super excited to be part of it, too. This is
Yeah.
going to be wonderful.
thank you. Any other, go ahead, Vice Mayor.
Can you say, thanks again for the presentation and appreciate the excitement. This is really neat stuff for City of Kingman, great PR. Can you say again the prices for the bricks and so that,
The brick is 125 is what it
Okay.
is. And it's a permanent brick. It's not like X number of years, then you rotate it out with something else. So that's a feature that some places don't have. And then the points of interest are 350, is that correct? And if you buy a point of interest, you also get a brick. Everything that's the higher level, you get everything there and down below. And then the $1,000 gets your name on the plaque that's right there, and a point of interest, and a brick. And then the 5,000 is a bench sort of sponsorship, as well as a name on the plaque and the point of interest in the
wow.
brick.
Wow,
It's kind of like a little story there.
thank you.
Thanks again.
Yeah.
Okay?
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Oh, I guess we should take this.
Just waiting a moment for our city manager to return and introduce our next report, which will be on redistricting update. And Manager Foggin, are you giving that report?
No, but I didn't want to take the time to go back to my chair and turn on the microphone and
Okay.
stuff. So we really thought that it would be of interest to the council and to the community to kind of understand. There's been a lot of talk over, it's been a while now, well over a year. Usually this is conversation that you have as part of census. Census obviously has wrapped up. The redistricting has been a hot topic for quite some time, and we thought that everybody would benefit from really what the redistricting group is doing, what it's looking like. And so Ms. Colleen thought, you know what, this would be a great opportunity. So I'm going to turn the time over to her to introduce our guests. We've been privileged to be joined by some folks that are part of the redistricting committee. And so, Colleen, do you want to take it from here?
Yep, sure, thank you. First, I just want to introduce Marie Chappell. She's the Community Outreach Coordinator. She's also joining us via Zoom. Thank you for helping me coordinate this. We are really lucky to be joined tonight by 2 of the 5 commissioners. It's the Arizona Independent Redistricting Commission. So I'm going to do a quick introduction of these 2 ladies, and then I'm going to hand it over to them. So one of the commissioners is Dr. Shereen Lerner. She received her PhD in anthropology from ASU in 1984. Dr. Lerner is currently a professor at Mesa Community College, where she served in several capacities, including as honors program director, dean, and department chair. And she's inducted in its Hall of Fame in 2016 for excellence in teaching. So we're lucky to have her, and also lucky to have her on the commission. We're also joined by the chair of the commission this evening. The commission chair is Erica Newberg. She's a registered independent from Chandler and was selected unanimously by her fellow commissioners to serve as chair of the Arizona Redistricting Commission. She's a clinical psychologist and life coach with a special focus on positive psychology. She earned her undergraduate degree in political science from Colorado College and a PhD in psychology from ASU. So with that, I will hand it over to the commissioners, and we await your presentation.
I'll turn it over to my colleague, Commissioner Lerner, to start with a presentation. And then after that, we are going to be, very honored to take your questions, and we look forward to the dialogue.
Okay. Thank you for having us here. We appreciate that. I wanted to know if you would like me to share the presentation, if I can do that. Is that okay? All right.
Yes,
Yes,
as long
the
as our
people that are
technology
watching
will
can see the presentation as well.
accommodate that.
Okay. Let me just pull that up. All right. Do you see the presentation?
Yes. we could, there's still a, okay.
I see it perfectly.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you. Just want to make sure it has the slides on it and not all the other. All right, I'm going to run through this pretty quickly because we are actually at a whole nother phase in terms of where we are with redistricting. This just is going to give you a little bit of background, and I'm not going to dwell on any one piece of these. As you know, the census was just mentioned. We are actually redistricting, as is every state in the union, as a result of the US Constitution, which is before you, as well as the Arizona Constitution, which provides guidelines for how we are actually supposed to be doing our redistricting. So the redistricting, the Independent Redistricting Commission itself actually got in place in 2000, the year 2000, when the voters put forth, or approved, I should say, a proposition that was put forth by voters to create this Independent Redistricting Commission. And the intent of that was basically to remove the responsibility from our elected officials into the hands of the public. And so that's why we have this commission in place. Arizona was one of the first, or maybe the first, to put a commission like this in place. There are now, I think, about a dozen states that are doing the same kind of thing. Many of them have modeled their commissions after Arizona. So commission membership, as you heard, there are different members. As part of that, there are 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans, and an independent. The Democrats and Republicans actually get to select the independent, and I know from history it's pretty unusual for us to have a unanimous selection, but it occurred in this particular case. So you see before you the different members of the commission and where they are located. One point to note, even though it looks like Maricopa County is very well represented with 3, there is a rule actually that says you cannot have more than 2 commissioners from the same county. However, that's out of the first 4 that are selected. Then the 5th one, who is the independent, can be from anywhere. And it happened that Dr. Newberg was from Maricopa County, and that's why you see that there are 3 from there. Arizona's Constitution has some very specific goals of how we are supposed to be doing our redistricting, and those are before you. And so probably to just briefly mention, equal population is critical, geographically compact and contiguous, respecting communities of interest, which we'll talk about in a minute, using geographic features, city, town, and county boundaries, all of census tracts, and then competitive districts. Now, in each case, you can see that there's a point that says to the extent practicable, or in the case of competitive districts, no significant detriment to the other goals. So there are some provisos in there because sometimes it's very difficult, especially if you have a large city or a large county, for example, you might need to split it basically to get other factors that we have to do, other provisions like the population. So as commissioners, I can tell you that all 5 of us are very conscious of these constitutional provisions and work very hard to achieve them. One of the most important things that we feel as a commission that we want to do is to get the public involved. As a result of COVID, we have been meeting virtually for the bulk of the year. And the nice thing about that is that the public can access all of our meetings right from their home. So all of our meetings have been online. They're also recorded. So if you miss a meeting or you want to double check what was said, you can go back on and find that. And I think that's, while we would love to be in person, and we are in person for our map drawing, I think there's been a real benefit for the public overall to be able to have great access to our meetings because we have been online in that way. So that's just one piece. Another piece of public involvement is that in July, we did an extensive listening tour around the state where we talked to the public and heard from the public about communities of interest. And we'll come back to what that means in a moment. But it was a great opportunity for us to visit with people all over the state and have them give us their opinions on what they think in terms of how the maps should look and also about their communities. From there, we've also been getting input on draft maps online. Anybody can submit anything at any time. We have full access for people to submit, whether through emails, through our web, through our public comment area. And we are getting thousands of comments at all the time from people saying, here's what we think in terms of how this map should be drawn. And here's what, let me tell you a little about my community. Let me tell you why I think these things should happen. So our public involvement, we feel, has been quite extensive. Another piece, and we are aware that you can always do more, by the way, we know that, but we're doing our best. Another piece to mention is that we are trying to empower the public, and one of the ways we've done that is we have a mapping tool. Anybody in the public can submit their version of what they would like to see for a map. So the redistricting maps are not only things that we are working on with our mapping consultants, and they are doing things at our direction, but we are also hearing from the public that might say, here's what we think this legislative district should look like, and they submit that for us. And we review all of that information, and we'll share a little bit more about that. But I think the most important thing here is to understand how the public can and has been involved from the very beginning. We've also been producing a number of different reports. One is the Socioeconomic Report, which is, I'll show you this now, a great report with lots of wonderful information that tells us a lot about the people of our state. Where do they live? What is their background? What is their education? What is their income? It helps us as we're looking to try to better understand people who have commonalities with each other and how can they be connected to each other in some way. So this report was completed over the summer, and it provides us with really great background about the residents and citizens of our state. The other major report that we did at the very beginning was what we call a community of interest report. I'm going to come back to that map in a moment. I want to define for you what we mean by community of interest. And this is really important because when we did our traveling around the state, this is what people were speaking to. What common interests do they have in their community, whether it's economic or social, or do they spend time together in religious institutions, educational institutions? Do they go to the same places for social events? Just as what was being talked about is going to happen in Kingman. We just heard about a great event. So what shared experience do they have? That's what a community interest tells us about. And very often we have communities that are right next to each other. So you might have two communities with a boundary line, but they cross over all the time to go shopping or to have experiences that they might share. Your school might be in one community and you might live in another. Those are the things we need to understand as we're putting together these districts. Also, we have government policies that might overlap between communities, whether it's things like forestry or water, tourism. You often partner with other communities to put things together. That's part of that community of interest. And then geographic areas. We want to be very conscious of geographic locations and try to keep people from being divided if at all possible. But remember, we have lots of things that we have to be looking at. So just as an example, when we were going around the state and hearing from people, a lot of people submitted information about what their interests were in terms of communities that they participate in. So this is a good example of how that works. What you see is Catalina Foothills, which is highlighted in a darker red. That means that we got more comments about this is a particular community of interest, this Catalina Foothills area. As it extends outward and the colors get lighter, we got fewer comments from people who said that they were connected to those other communities. So this really gives us a sense, based on the public feedback, on what they think a solid community of interest might be. So to summarize in terms of how this is working, and I know I've emphasized a lot on community engagement because we think this is so important. Anybody can participate in the map drawing that is going on right now. Anybody can look at the current maps that are there and provide feedback. So this is an example of our website right here, the Arizona Independent Redistricting website. that has a way to access the actual maps that are being drawn and submitted. So if you have an interest in looking in Kingman where some of the lines have currently been drawn, you can easily access that. And if you want to submit a Kingman map, you can easily do that we can then look at and be part of our consideration of how we draw the maps. This is just another example of our website that we have, and we encourage you to take a look and have the citizens of Kingman take a look and give us feedback. So this mapping hub that I just showed you a couple of examples of provides lots of great information. It is overwhelming on how much information is in there, really, in a good way. So you can actually see all the maps that we have. You can see that you can learn the mapping applications, you can provide input, you can provide your own map, and you can review the maps that have been done. In addition, because the system is the ESRI system, which is a little complicated, we actually have a lot of training that's been developed by our mapping consultants. So you can actually walk through that training and learn. The next thing I want to mention is a couple of sort of things about where we are. One of the things that has to happen before we draw our map is to basically create what's called a grid map. And essentially what that is doing is wiping the slate clean. We are not working off of the maps that are previous or that we currently live in, right? The districts that you have right now, we're not working off of those. We basically started over. So this grid map that was adopted in September was developed through our commission direction by our mapping consultants. And it's basically just gave us a blank slate to begin with. From there, we changed the lines based on all of the factors that we've talked about, the communities of interest, the geographic boundaries, all of the different areas that exist in terms of our Constitution. So this was what we began with in mid-September. You can actually locate that and find what the grid map looked like. But my feeling is at this point, what you want to do is look at where we are today. And we are now at a point where we just last week approved 2 draft maps for review by people around the state. These draft maps basically took what was our grid map and through commission input and public input have now changed those lines. So if you were to compare the grid maps to our maps of today, you would see there would be a number of differences between them, because now what we're doing is working towards the final district maps that we have, the final lines. And what you see before you is a rough calendar. We are now just beginning our public review process of the draft maps that we just approved. So the maps, if you go to look at the redistricting website, you will see the current maps that are there, and those are the maps that we want to hear feedback from. At the end of November, we will come back together as a commission, and you'll see that in the first week in December. And we will now be based on comments and feedback and review of all and the constitutional requirements. We're going to work to revise those plans that we currently have. And we hope to complete that by the end of, December 22nd is our due date, the end of that. So I'm going to stop there and stop sharing my screen. And have I stopped?
Yes,
screen?
we can see you now.
Just always check because there's so many different systems. So we'll take questions, and I'd like to ask the chair of our commission, Dr. Newberg, if she has anything to add.
Thank you, Commissioner Lerner. That was a wonderful overview. We're very excited to be engaging, with the public and hearing your feedback. And I'd like to spend the time actually listening to your questions. So if we could turn it over to the council and please, let us know what's on your mind.
Thank you, Dr. Newberg, and also Commissioner Lerner for the presentation. I'll start with the council. Do you have questions that are on your mind at this moment?
I do have a question, Mayor, if I may.
Please go ahead, Councilor Samily.
Have there been any districts, or will there be any additional districts added based off of population?
No, so based on the Census Bureau data, Arizona did not receive an additional district. And so we are redistricting based on 9 congressional seats and 30 legislative seats.
Thank you.
Well, I guess at this point, we look forward to looking at these draft maps that have been created. Could you share with us if you see any clearly defined differences or trends that we're moving toward based on the demographics of our population in Arizona, or in our region for that matter?
You know, I'll start and then I'll turn it over to my colleague. I think one of the major trends is that there continues to be, you know, greater population growth within Maricopa County. And so, you know, there are challenges with the Redistricting Commission to honor, you know, all rural areas and the outer parts of our state without necessarily having to rely on the large population centers of Maricopa County, because one of the basic tenets of the Constitution is equal population. So that's one trend, you know, that we're navigating. You know, I don't know, Commissioner Lerner, what would you like to add to that?
Well, I think that's a really important point about how the population has moved more urban. A second piece might be that we've become a more diverse state as well. So the diversity has increased, and so we take that into consideration as well. And I think we try our best to look at commonalities of interests between communities, but I think Chairwoman's comment about more urban is probably one of our biggest challenges, because it's we need to be honoring what happens in the rural areas and the different needs that are in the rural areas than with the urban areas. But just as an example, we need 238,000 plus people for just one legislative district. And that's often a challenge when we're actually just looking at urban areas, and then almost 800,000 for congressional. So those are some of the challenges I think we face.
And then on top of that, I would add that when you are striving to redistrict based on communities of interest, which is a major principle of the Constitution, and you're looking at honoring the rural areas, it can lend itself to some districts that are a little bit more politically extreme. There is a constitutional criteria to also seek competitiveness. And so these are some of the tensions that commissioners must navigate, you know, to honor as many communities of interest while maximizing competitiveness. For me, I look at the competitiveness as a way to achieve greater accountability in government and achieve a greater motivation amongst our elected leaders to not ignore potentially marginalized communities. So it's an art and a science.
I can see that. Now, so given that you've basically started with what you say is a blank page, so to speak, you can really change those districts according to those criteria that you're mentioning quite dramatically, given any shifts in demographics or communities of interest.
That's correct.
You're not held to any existing boundary.
Exactly. We're starting fresh. We're not, and one other piece, we're not supposed to look at wherever any current, this is supposed to be without knowing and looking where current sitting legislators are. So that's an important piece, right? We can't factor that in. So it is really starting over, but we try to take everything into consideration to make the best possible districts that we can.
And this is incredibly exciting for Arizona. You know, we're a leading maverick state. We're one of the most independent commissions out there, and we are not beholden to incumbents. And because of that, it really does achieve greater accountability. And, you know, it shakes it up a bit, and it has shooken it up, if you read the news, but that's what our Constitution asks us to do, and it's healthy for democracy.
Thank you. Yes, well, just based on the composition of your commission, it looks like you will have a representative commission, and so when you come together on an agreement, it will be interesting for us to all look and see what it is. But I'm glad that there's such a public engagement process and that you're with us this evening to discuss this. Are there any comments or questions from anyone else on the council? Well, I am fascinated by your process. I think it seems very, very fair and thorough, and so you have to have those completed by December 22nd. So
yes. Well, when we say have to, that is the commission's chosen deadline. It's based on the Secretary of State's preference for when it would be helpful to get those lines to our state. And I just want to give a plug to my colleagues. We just adopted these 2 draft maps with a consensus 5-0 vote. And I give my partisan colleagues tremendous credit for putting the commission first above partisan politics. And when the state is bemoaning the vitriol and some of the tensions that are going on with extremism, the underbelly of democracy, there's a lot of what's going right. And I credit, my colleague, Commissioner Lerner, and her other colleagues, our colleagues, for the honest process that's really transparent and that's so based on public opinion. So I hope everybody follows the process, registers to, have their input be heard. And, it's an exciting time. December 22nd, we hope to have those maps out.
and then how will that translate into actual transition for elections?
Well, what happens is we deliver these lines to the state. Of course, there may well be some legal challenges, but barring any, obstacles, the state then takes those lines, and they have quite a bit of work to do logistically with plugging in everybody's addresses, their registrations, and getting the state ready to logistically vote. And what that also allows for is for all of the candidates and current sitting members of Congress to understand these are the lines through which you will run for office. And so it really begins the process of setting the stage for the election for early November.
Thank you so much. Well, I think there's still no questions, so I just want to thank you very much for joining us this evening. This is so really important to our election process next year, and so thank you for what you're doing and for the information of how we can tie in as individuals into this process.
Thank you for letting us be here.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
Have a beautiful evening. Thank you.
Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll now move on to announcements by mayor, council members, and the city manager. Limited to announcements, board and commission liaison reports, and availability attendance at conferences and seminars. Manager Foggen.
Thank you, Mayor. I've got two things to remind the council. First, we've already talked about it a lot, but it's worth saying again, Route 66 Fest is this weekend at Lewis Kingman Park. And then just a reminder to the council and the community that we are having a Veterans Day Parade. It will be downtown, and that will be November 13th, which is a Saturday. And we will have entry for the council.
Thank you. Our council wagon. Ready. I'll bet it'll have flags too. Okay, Councilor Mello.
Well, the mayor and I attended the Walk Away from Drugs. It was the 15th annual Walk Away from Drugs, and it was an amazing turnout. Lots of families and kids, and the city staff did a great job. The fire department was there with their trucks. It was quite the turnout. It was a really nice evening, perfect weather. And we also attended, Councilwoman Samley, the mayor, and I, the largest legal street drugs right here in the heart of Route 66. And as promised, I did race. Kyle Busch couldn't make it, so Manager Foggen filled in. And it was a good effort, Manager Foggen. Nice try.
But she
we had a
left you
great
in the
time.
dust. She left him in the dust.
I did.
Yes, she did.
I know.
I cannot deny that.
We had a great time. It was a really fun day. And then one more thing, I'm just going to do another plug for, I hope our citizens, and I challenge each council member to go onto the city's website and purchase some bus passes for our veterans so that they can ride CART for free. It makes a big difference in their lives. And you can get 4 passes for $20. So that's my challenge to you. That's all I got.
Thank you. Councilor Walker.
Nothing tonight.
Councilor Samley.
I just wanted to say thank you for those that helped put on, volunteer, and for the street drags, because I feel like it was a very good event for Kingman. I heard a lot of positive comments all weekend long, so I know that they worked very, very hard at putting that together, and I hope that they continue to make this an annual event, because I think it was great for our community. And I did enjoy the race.
Councilor Staley.
Sorry, I'm having some technical difficulties. Nothing else this evening.
Thank you. Vice Mayor.
I have nothing, Mayor. Thank you.
I just want to, I want to join the thanks to our city staff for the wonderful work for all these events. But on the Walk Away from Drugs, I know our city clerk, Annie Meredith, spent many days working on that layout for all the 40-plus vendors that were there and the organizations that were there to provide resources and support for those who are walking away from drugs. So thank you. I also want to mention that last week I was in Phoenix for the Mohave County West Basin Water User Study Committee. It's a mouthful. This is Representative Cobb's study committee that is appointed by the governor or the legislature. And this was was a meeting for us to discuss the potential solutions for groundwater, especially in our Walapai aquifer. And we will have one more meeting. This was a very productive meeting. We heard from people on really both sides of wanting to support Representative Cobb's legislation for rural management area and for irrigation non-expansion areas, and also those that are concerned about it and concerned about any regulatory or legislative solution and would rather have volunteer. But, you know, I think we had a really dynamic dialogue. And the next meeting, which will be November 17th, will be the last for this study committee. And at that, we hope to come out of it with recommendations regarding this legislation, which Representative Cobb has been working on for a number of years. And this is her last year because she's termed out now, but we're going to try really hard and she knows how much Kingman supports her efforts and her legislation. There's still some, modifications to the draft legislation that are being made, but it's being made with the input of all these voices, which is really critical. And the thing that I walked away with is how important it is for these dialogues to continue in some kind of forum, like an RMA, because when all the stakeholders are at the table, we learn from each other and we can leverage each other's resources and our ideas. So let's all, fingers crossed for November 17th. Also, I would mention that we as a council, moved to go forward with partnering with Jerry Ambrose Veterans Council to get a grant, a community development, what is it,
Community Development Block Grant.
Block grant, thank you, CDBG, for the facility here on Oak Street to complete the constructions for transitional housing for veterans. And we got the official notice today from Arizona Department of Housing, and Governor Ducey also announced it, that Kingman received this $2 million. And so this is going to, the city is actually partnered and will administer the grant, but there is a project manager that will, handle all the data requirements and reporting requirements. And we're just very happy that we've been able to get this, and to know that those resources will just get better and better for our veterans. I think that's, I attended, several of us attended Tri-City Council. We continue to support the downwinders legislation, and we all agreed to, the three mayors have all signed the letter already to the Senate and to the House of Representatives to support the extension of the downwinders, basically Compensation Act. It's for Radiation Exposure Compensation Act. It's called RECRA. Anyway, this would extend it, and it would also expand the geographic territory to include all of Mohave County, in fact, all of Arizona and some other states, so that those that were impacted by the Nevada testing sites will get an opportunity to have compensation for that. So it's been a busy time, and it doesn't seem like it's going to slow up any during the holidays either, but we look forward to the many events that the city is planning and that our partner organizations are planning. So that's all I have. And so the next item on the agenda is any council requests for future reports and updates.
I have one, Mayor.
Please go ahead, Councilor Miller.
When Deputy Chief Freed came and talked about our homeless population and having a roundtable with the churches that wanted to help, and I'm probably being impatient, but I would really like to get that going sooner than later, Manager Foggin. So could you check into that? Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
I do, and maybe Manager Foggin, you can help me if this is appropriate or not, but the traffic on Walapai Mountain Road, I'd like to get some kind of reporting on the traffic, if it's a traffic study or traffic count. It seems like it's become the new speedway, and I am concerned. I'm more concerned for people turning on to Walapai Mountain Road, and not only that, there doesn't seem to be a break in traffic until you get to Andy Devine. So I don't know if it's appropriate to ask for a study to be done about maybe putting in a stoplight at some point along that route, or it just seems, to be heavily trafficked, and the more development that happens up Walapai Mountain Road, it's getting even more noticeable. And I've had several people ask me about that.
We'll have a report on it.
Thank you.
Good idea. Anything else? Okay. Would love a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion and second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Meeting